everyone, and welcome to the recording of Survivor Speak Through Story, a short film screening and panel. We were delighted to have so many of you join us for this virtual screening and panel discussion in honor of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. My name is Mica Jane, Director of Growth at Reimagine, and I had the pleasure of hosting the event. Reimagine is a nonprofit organization dedicated to catalyzing a uniquely powerful community. People of different backgrounds, ages, races, and faiths, and no faith, coming together in the hopes of healing ourselves and the world. We specifically support each other in facing adversity, loss, and mortality, and at our own pace, actively channeling life's biggest challenges into meaningful action and growth. We were honored to present this event as part of that mission. During the event, we watched the short film Touched, directed by Virginia Tucker. This poignant film follows a survivor of sexual assault as she navigates the complexities of intimacy and PTSD. After the screening, we had a panel discussion with Virginia Tucker, actresses and activists Katherine, Kendall, and Dulany, and Kathy Eldon, founder of Creative Visions. Before you view the recording of the event, I'd like to tell you a bit about Virginia Tucker, the founder of AudreyDay Films. Virginia Tucker is a director, writer, and producer who shifted from acting to create the types of stories she longed to see being made, stories that celebrate the complex female experience. In 2020, Virginia founded AudreyDay to focus on telling stories that embrace women's imperfections, flaws, wrinkles, and secrets. With her background in acting, she has worked professionally in Los Angeles since the age of 15 and has appeared on shows like Queer as Folk, Leverage Redemption, and Criminal Minds. This year, she was in Bottoms, which premiered at South by Southwest Festival. During the pandemic, Virginia wrote and directed the award-winning short film Touched, which has been screened at festivals across the country, partnering with RAIN, the nation's leading hotline against sexual violence. Virginia is now working towards making the feature-length version of the film, She Survives. We hope you enjoy the recording of this inspiring and thought-provoking event. Thank you for your support in raising awareness for this crucial issue. Enjoy.
I've been waiting all my life for this right here. I don't think I know more than you. Every time I try.
Dylan.
I said stop.
Dude, you need to chill. Was it the boogeyman?
Very funny. I'm not 5, Lola.
It's Mr. Perfect Handsome coming over. Oh my god. You like him? You know he's completely in love with you, right?
Probably because they didn't fall for him in 2 seconds like everyone else.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, have you guys made out?
Lola!
What? Inquiring minds want to know.
I'm taking my time.
Well, tonight's the perfect time for you to seal the deal, because I'm just saying, I don't think he's gonna wait much longer. So what are you planning on wearing tonight? And please, for once, tell me it's not a baseball cap and no makeup.
Guys' clothes are way more comfortable than girls' stuff anyway.
At least, let me do your eye makeup.
Okay, fine.
Like, no, like eye makeup, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go. So slow, come on.
6 a.m. good morning, love. Getting in, you're getting up. Wonder if you're feeling good. Think of you, I'm feeling stuck in back of lines, like I'm wasting time.
Hello.
This feeling in my gut won't let me give you up. You keep coming through the door, and I start the door shut. Then you're going hit me up, 'cause you move to better weather, doing good, you're doing fine. Other guys can make you laugh and they can.
You look different today, or something. I like it. It's good. Your face looks nice.
My face looks nice.
You know what I mean, Dill. You don't really have to try or put in effort. It's just You look really good tonight, is what I'm saying.
Thanks.
Hey, you seem pretty distracted. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Hey, are we... You know... Do you like me?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. I wouldn't hang out with you this much if I didn't like you.
No? Good. Okay.
Sorry, it's not supposed to get in the pool, and,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. Hey.
Hey, did you just wake up?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna make you coffee.
I love you. Sorry, the party went late last night.
So
So,
what happened with the guy?
it didn't.
What? I thought you really liked this guy.
I did. I do. It's whatever. I fucked it up.
You can't fix it.
He shouldn't have to wait for me. Plus, he probably deserves someone else, so.
But what about you?
It was stupid of me to get my hopes up, you know? What?
When are you going to stop self-sabotaging your relationships? Maybe if you could just... I just want you to be happy. What's wrong?
I never told anyone. It's so stupid. It just still messes with me, but there was this guy my freshman year. And I told him to stop. And I didn't want to be touched like that, and he just kept coming at me.
Did he?
No, that's why I never said anything. It just really messes with my head, and I just can't get it to stop.
I had a feeling that something was wrong. I just...
Sarah.
Dill, I'm so sorry. If I had been around, I would have kicked that little twerp.
You were at UC. Okay, you were living your best life, and
Nobody at your school knew?
thought it would make it worse.
Oh my God. Why didn't you tell me?
It just wasn't as bad as what happens to some girls. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, and it stayed with me. I'm done trying to hide it. I can't do this alone anymore.
I had no idea that you were going through that. I'm here. I'm here.
There were clouds hanging over me. I felt that there was no way to be free until you came along and changed my mind. The light you shine cannot be confined. Now I am in love, it feels like I am home. You're an angel from above, I just want you to know. You are my sunshine. When you smile, you shine so bright. You are my sunshine.
Wow. Thank you so much, Virginia, for putting this out into the world and for sharing this with us tonight. I'd love it if folks could share their thoughts and reflections in the chat as we continue to talk about this. But I hope you all found it as moving and thought-provoking as I did when I first saw the short. It made me feel seen. And I think that's all you can really ask for when you create something like this. I don't know, Virginia, what has been your response from survivors and other people that have seen this since you've put out into the world and screened it?
Yeah, I think one thing I heard a lot from people was there's been a lot of stories about showing the event itself, but never really the healing process and the time after, and how relationships are affected, whether they're family relationships or romantic relationships, and just what it's like just dealing day to day with PTSD and getting over it, and just kind of the journey. I think also this story was intentionally left a little bit open-ended as to what exactly happened, and that it maybe wasn't as bad as what happened to some other people, which I've also had a lot of people kind of share stories with me of maybe stuff they didn't consider to be something that impacted them, but it did. So yeah, those are two things that people have shared a lot.
Yeah, I personally love that you kept it open-ended, and I'm sure a lot of other survivors did too, because they can really see themselves in Dylan's story, regardless of what they've been through. I'm excited now to introduce our other panelists into the conversation, beginning with Katherine Kendall, an actor, artist, and silence breaker from Los Angeles. Katherine courageously shared her story about Harvey Weinstein with the New York Times and has since used her platform to promote healing and raise awareness about sexual assault. She hosts the podcast Raw with Katherine Kendall, where she discusses courage, resiliency, and trauma with survivors and guests. Katherine is an associate producer on the feature-length version of tonight's film called She Survives. And Katherine continues to lend her voice and time to create safe spaces for others and foster healing. And I'm so grateful to have her here tonight. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
No, I was just going to say the first thing I wanted to ask you was, one, your reaction to the short, and then secondly, as an actress and activist, how has your personal experience as a silence breaker influenced your approach to acting?
Well, thank you, Misha. I think that my reaction to the short is I think it's such a beautiful example, like Virginia talked about. I think so many times people minimize their experience and they don't really tell the whole truth. They're scared and they think, like I thought, even for my own self, I'm having an overreaction, it must be me. And there couldn't be, I mean, everyone else must think this is no big deal, but I'm having a personal meltdown. So I guess I'm crazy, and I sort of went down this path of self-hatred and blame and shame. So I think shame has sort of locked me up in so many ways, but I think speaking out about it really helped melt that a little bit. And like talking to other survivors, I've been so lucky. Dulany is also a Harvey Weinstein survivor. And I've gotten to meet other people who, I mean, I had no idea when I talked to the Times that there were going to be like even one other person. I just did not have a clue that the world would sort of step up and say, me too, me too, me too. And so I think that the sort of emotion that the character and Virginia's movie shows, like her tenderness and her sort of, I think that's so, I really relate to how personal, that is, and how just the fear that like your thing isn't as bad as someone else's. And why are you still thinking about it? Why are you blocked? Why can't you move forward with your relationships? Why are you, in this sort of jail cell by yourself? Because of what somebody else, perpetrated against you. And so I think just want to say that about the movie and about how it's sort of affected me in my art and I think as an actress, I mean, I'll have to say in particular that I think I always felt like Harvey Weinstein had this like eye on me, like I was going to be in trouble, like big, big trouble for speaking out and for saying no, for trying to, to get out of it. And so I think that now I feel a lot of freedom in that. I hate to say it, but that so many others were with me on that journey. Now I know that. And I think I'm a braver actor and a braver artist because of it. I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. I wish it could be like, oh, I spoke out at the New York Times. I do it right every time now. It's a constant like re-upping of my courage, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I commend you on your bravery. And at the same time, I'm sorry that you had to be brave, that you were put in a situation where you had to be brave. I'm wondering, since you have spoken out and found this community, are there any specific moments from your activism that have deeply impacted you in connecting with other women who have had the same or similar experiences?
Well, there are definitely, there's so many. I mean, this is one of them. It matters so much to me to reach to young people and, because they're kind of they're the targets, for the most part, not of course across the board, but I feel like young people, and I know how much they're still struggling to find answers here, to be heard, to feel like it's if they say no to the cool person, and I mean, there's so much politics that goes on for young people, and then they're going out into the world starting, and I want to lend my hand, in my experience to help. I'm also extremely touched by, like, I recently spoke somewhere in Washington, D.C., which is where I'm from. And I think that one of the things that gets me the most is to remember that prior to 2017, it was unheard of. It was unheard of that we would be speaking about this publicly. So anyone that's my mom's age, which is, my mom is 78, they never thought in their lifetime that they would ever mutter the words, even to maybe a best friend. And, one of her good friends came up to me and said, I have a story. And it kind of stunned me, but really moved me that she had held it in for so long. I could cry now thinking about it, because there's still a chance for her. There's still a chance for her to have, a healing.
Definitely. And I think in you speaking about it, regardless of whether it's an older generation, a younger generation, you're paving the way for women, regardless of their situation, to come out and to say something. And that's why I think it's important that projects like Touched are coming out into the world, and individuals like you are backing them. And I'm excited that we also have Dulany here tonight, who is your friend, as well as a fellow Harvey Weinstein survivor. So welcome, Caitlin. I'd love to tell you a bit about her before we ask about her experience. Caitlin is a talented actress who has appeared in numerous productions like Project X, Old Boy, American Horror Stories, Criminal Minds, and ER. Featured in the Sundance Festival selection documentary Untouchable, she has become a passionate advocate for change in addressing sexual assault and harassment in the entertainment industry. Caitlin serves on the SAG-AFTRA LA Local Executive Board and the SAG-AFTRA National Sexual Harassment Prevention Committee. She has also contributed to the Time's Up Guide to Working in Entertainment and worked with equal rights advocates to strengthen sexual harassment protections in California. As a leading voice in the Me Too movement and a proud silence breaker, Caitlin is dedicated to creating a safer and more equitable entertainment industry, and is also an associate producer on the feature-length film She Survives. So Caitlin, it's lovely to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film and how it resonates with your experiences.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm really happy to be here. Like Katherine said, the minimizing of it, and for me, thoughts you're the only one, or sometimes someone that's assaulted, it just doesn't register that that's what happened. Or if it does, you try to compartmentalize it. And what I related to also, was, unfortunately, those feelings of trauma that come up, like feeling unsafe in an intimate situation where you so want to be with that person. I struggled with that, all my life because of various experiences, but like Katherine, was assaulted by Harvey Weinstein, and just that anxiety and not feeling safe, and feelings of shame and isolation, even from loved ones. But it's so moving to see the beginning of the healing process, and in this short, and that desire to speak to someone and to reach out and to be close again. And I didn't actually speak about what happened to me until I accept to my sister, like in the film. It's just for this film, it was so meaning then eventually I spoke out publicly, and we could talk about all that, but that intimate moment with the sister also really spoke to me. But I also want to say that I think that it's not only is it hard sometimes to register that what happened to you happened, or that it's not that bad, or that you don't deserve, that there's shame around it, that the trauma is there from experiences like that. And the first part of the healing process is talking to someone. In the documentary Untouchable, which is about the Harvey Weinstein story, one of the women that's interviewed said it took her a long time to talk about it. And she just said, tell anyone, not anyone, but, tell someone, just tell your dog, so I love that moment of connection in there. But I also know that it's hard sometimes to do that, and people have choices in that area. But I love the showing of the beginning of the healing process by talking to someone that you trust and that you love and that you want to feel close to and reach out to help for.
Definitely. I think sharing your story, at least seeing Dylan do it in the short and reflecting on my own experiences or people in my life's experience, seeing that relief. And, you're expressing, you've heard from someone, tell anyone. I think, as a society, we have created an environment where perhaps it's not, it doesn't feel safe to come forward. So I'm wondering, Caitlin, how do you think that we as a society can better support survivors of sexual assault in their journey towards healing and create those safe environments where people feel like they can come forward and speak up?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. And, it's a situation, sexual assault, where you have been violated and you don't feel safe and someone's had power over you. So all of that is at play too. And one of the great things about the Me Too movement, when it took off in 2017, it was already started by Tarana Burke, and her concept behind it was survivors being there for other survivors and empathizing with each other and keeping the conversation going. And I would say that's a lot of what I think about when I think of how we can support survivors in their journey, or continue to support them, or support them in a better way, is to continue the conversation in our communities, our places of work, our legislative bodies, in our art and our social media. And, the Me Too movement is a grassroots movement about being there for each other. And it really started a cultural shift. And there has been a change, and we just sort of have to keep that momentum going. And, change is hard, but awareness in social media and legislative reform, and there's been so many nonprofit groups that have emerged about this subject, and then also other subjects, and the idea of trauma and how trauma hits you. And so amplifying their work, just continuing the cultural awareness around supporting survivors. Unfortunately, I've been asked a lot of times recently if the Me Too movement is over. And, it's not, as long as we, the collective, we keep the conversation going and, continue to take action that promotes real change. And sometimes that's publicly, sometimes it's just personally in your own life. But there's a lot more awareness now, and there are more laws, and there are more nonprofits. But mainly it's having conversations like this, and just talking about it and taking it out of the shadows, because it always feels like that, it will always feel like that, unfortunately.
I think that's a good point. Taking it out of the shadows, destigmatizing it, and having conversations like this. And I was sharing in the green room, so to speak, this is the first event that Reimagine has done on this topic. And I'm really grateful that we can spread awareness about sexual assault and create a container where people can share their stories. I can see in the chat, people are sharing their stories and, finding solace in knowing that they're not alone. So I'm very grateful, Caitlin, that you're here tonight also. All right, and now I'd like to invite another amazing woman, Kathy Eldon, to the conversation. Kathy Eldon is the founder of Creative Visions, the nonprofit fiscally sponsoring the project that we're sharing tonight. Kathy is an award-winning film and television producer, best-selling author, and journalist. Inspired by her son, Dan Eldon's life, Kathy and her daughter, Amy, launched Creative Visions Foundation in 1998. Since then, the organization has supported over 360 projects and productions, impacting more than 100 million people. As a passionate storyteller and creative activist, Kathy has produced numerous documentaries and films that have been distributed through global outlets. A popular speaker, Kathy has been featured on various television and radio programs, including appearances on Oprah. She continues to inspire others through her work and the Dan Eldon Center for Creative Activism. Kathy, I'm so glad you could join us for this discussion tonight.
Unmute. All right. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Welcome.
Here, and honestly, thank you so much, Katherine and Caitlin, and of course Virginia. We're so excited to have Virginia as part of our family. I wanted to say to you, Caitlin, that Me Too is not over, but maybe it's We Too. Like we're all in this together, and it's what the work that you all have done has been profoundly important. The sense where we genuinely feel that we're part of the conversation and we want to be there too. And thinking back in my life. My kids grew up in Kenya and I lived in Kenya, and I had a lovely friend of mine who was 15 and I was a mother, but my young friend was gang raped, just unbelievably horrifically. And she told me, and she told me, and I was the only person that she told. And in those days, I think I found one person that I thought could be a counselor for her. But I look back at the horror of that reality, that my young friend told one person, that was me, and I might have found one person for her. It was such a subject of shame and horror for her that it defined her life. She ended up in Tasmania, which is about as far away from Kenya as you can get on the planet. And I just, as you were talking, I was just thinking about my complicity in a way with her dysfunction for the rest of her life. And had I only known, had we only had any conversations, but I was a child of that, don't talk about it, stiff upper lip, and the tragedy and sadness of women and men going through lifetimes with the elephants, herds of elephants in their living room. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to dive in and say, oh my God, people, what an important conversation.
Yes,
sorry.
No, don't apologize. I'm so glad you dove in and shared that, because I think it highlights that so many people go through this alone. You were the one person that your friend told, and what a horrific experience to have experienced and then hold within, perhaps for the rest of your life if she didn't tell anyone but you. But Kathy, I'm sure you've heard many harrowing stories through whether it's sexual assault or other tragedies. I know your organization, Creative Visions, creates a platform for these stories to be shared through media. I'd love for you to be able to share more about Creative Visions and your journey in founding the organization.
Well, we're really born out of intense trauma, and gosh, everybody's trauma is different, and there's no way we can compare one trauma against another trauma. It's profound within ourselves. And my trauma was the murder of my son Dan, who was a young photojournalist working in Somalia. He was 22 years old, and while he was trying to tell a story on the day that he was leaving Somalia for good, he, together with 3 other young journalists, were beaten, stoned, and shot. One of them was shot to death for being present in a place where people didn't want them to be. And they were just trying to tell a story. So it's one of those complete misunderstandings. So out of the pain of that, unthinkable thing that happened, and again, unthinkable things are not something you can compare. But for me, I literally would have imploded if I hadn't been able to figure out a way to transform that horror into what I call the force for good. And I think it was very much bound in with, we have to tell their stories of what is it to be a journalist at risk? What is it, just as Caitlin and Katherine have been telling the stories of other survivors, you're compelled, you will not survive if you can't get those stories out. And for me, it was multiple ways of getting stories out. And I moved to Los Angeles from London, where I was living, to try to make a feature film about this. So for me, it was really driven by storytelling. I ended up in conferences and all sorts of things to try to tell stories about journalists at risk. So that for me was like, okay, I have to transform this anger, this rage, this pain that I felt into something positive, or I would have died. So it was a big, long journey. I moved to LA in 1993, right after Dan was killed, to try to make a feature film. It took me 23 years to get to that feature film. But along the way, we started Creative Visions to celebrate creative activists. Now, Katherine and Caitlin and Virginia, we would call you a creative activist because you're taking that creative spark that you have been blessed with, whether it's acting or storytelling or filmmaking or whatever it is. And everybody has a creative spark within you. You may not know that, and you could be a dentist, you can be an accountant, you don't have to be a filmmaker, but we all have a creative spark. And how do we take that spark and use it not only for ourselves, but for others? We focus on people using art, music, dance, drama, film, storytellers who want to catalyze. I want to get people off their flipping backsides to do something. So it's to catalyze awareness about something, or to create awareness about something, and then to catalyze positive change. So over the years, we've worked with, honestly, way more than 360 projects and productions now. We have a beautiful fiscal sponsorship where we have 150 projects and productions under us right now. And we're so honored to have you, Virginia. And the way that this project is going from a short to a feature is just dazzling. But we try to provide the ability for people to connect with each other, because honestly, it's so lonely when you're trying to do this work. And I know that you all know there out there, if you're listening in, you know how hard it is to feel supported when you're trying to do something that really matters. It's like, so it feels way easier to make widgets, but when we're trying to do storytelling that matters, it's very difficult. We have a youth program that is launched 2 days ago with Discovery Education, which is teaching storytelling it's going to be available free for 44 million kids. And I'm beyond excited right this very minute because I can share that with you all. And it's based on the Declaration of Human Rights and the UN SDGs. For people to learn what their rights are, you know, it's not our right, anybody's right to sexually assault us. And then to learn how to tell the stories that will mobilize other people to take action. So we welcome every single one of you to join our free online creativevisions.org, join the network in any way that we can serve you. We would be honored to do so. So that's the basics for us.
Yeah, well, it seems you have an awful lot going on, Kathy. Thank you so much for sharing. It's amazing how something so traumatic, such as the experience with your son, Dan, in losing his life, you've transmuted that into something beautiful and are giving back to so many through Creative Visions. And Katherine, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it was amazing when we had our preparation call, we spoke about Dan Eldon. And Katherine, do you want to share?
Well, I can just first say that this has been on my coffee table since the 90s.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
No, thank you. I mean, I'm like a little bit starstruck. I could fangirl out, but because I don't know why, but I have been inspired by your son since I had this book.
Well, straight back at you, girl. I feel exactly about you, so I can't wait to get together for real. I call Dan my noisy spirit, and our organization is fueled by noisy spirits, and I really appreciate you. Deeply moved me. Thank you very, very much for sharing that.
No, seriously, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was very kismet when that happened, so I wanted to pop that in there. I want to open this up to all of you, whoever feels called to answer. The movie touches on the importance of the first person you share with, and I wondered what advice you would offer to someone wanting to share their story and who to tell.
Caitlin and Katherine, I'll let you guys take that because I'm learning from you.
I would just say, kind of like we already said, and Katherine can elaborate, tell when you are ready. You have choices. Sometimes that being ready comes out of a real need to heal, and sometimes it just feels right. Be in a safe place with someone that you trust, meaning a safe space, and love very much, and who loves you very much. And I always think of a good friend. And when I say my sister was the only person I told, was because she was sort of my best friend, but family members aren't always ideal, as probably people know. And if none of that feels attainable or right, or you just aren't ready, just remember you have choices, and therapists trained in trauma, many of whom work on a sliding scale, is always a good choice too. And a lot of nonprofits have resources that can help you find someone.
Thank you, Caitlin. And we are assembling as a group a list of resources that we can share out with everyone attending here tonight and anyone who's catching the recording after this goes out. So people do have places to turn to if there aren't individuals in your life that you feel safe speaking to. Virginia, I want to turn it back to you briefly. Can you talk about the challenges that you faced in creating an authentic and sensitive portrayal of a survivor's journey in Touched?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes Hollywood, they talk about an issue, but they don't really involve the people that the story is about. So especially when adapting the short to the feature that we're making right now, which is called She Survives, I spent about 1.5 years researching with a lot of different survivors, domestic violence survivors, people with PTSD. And I just wanted to really make sure that it actually captured the experience and that it rang true, because I think I just wanted to involve the community that it's about. So it was super challenging. I just got a lot of feedback on what I was making, and then just, talked to, as I've made this project, just so many people have come out of the woodwork of friends or family members or different people that are survivors that I had no idea. And I get more into that in the feature, just how a lot of times there are so many survivors around you, you just don't know. And so doing this project has really kind of like what Caitlin and Katherine were saying, a lot of women and guys coming up to them and sharing that they're survivors too. So I've just tried to really incorporate that and then just really get feedback from the community of the experience. And I read a lot about the therapy experience, because in our feature film, we really get into like what it looks like to join a support group of other survivors and with a therapist, and what that process might look like. And so that was really fun to dive into that and figure out, okay, how are we going to show the therapy process on screen? Because usually you don't really see that. And how do we still tell that in a compelling way that's cinematic? So that's something that we're definitely working on with the feature.
That's very exciting. I can really appreciate the intentionality that you put into the short version of the film. And so I'm very excited to see She Survives. When can we expect its release?
Yeah, hopefully it will be 2024. That's the plan.
All right. Well, watch this space. We'll definitely be the first to share out the news when we can
I would
watch
be
it.
honored.
Yes, we might have to have you return.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, Katherine, I have a question for you next. How do you think art and storytelling can play a role in promoting healing and raising awareness?
Well, I think that art is sort of cuts through all community, religion, race, whatever, it speaks to all of us. And I think that it helps us find words where sometimes we might not have them, or sometimes if we see, like in the movie She Said, for instance, the very first frame of the film is well, maybe it's not the very first, but it's one of the first scenes. It's a girl running. She's running, and you don't even have to know that it's the movie She Said. You could see that clip and she's running from an assault. You can see it in her face. I mean, everything about the expression tells you. And so when we see something, sometimes we can feel it. And I love that about film, because it's just it's a visual, sometimes it's clunky to have to spell it out 1,000,000 times. And sometimes when we see it, we're like, oh yeah, oh, that, like in Virginia's movie. So I think that it has an incredibly, I think art is the most powerful way to unite us as humans.
Yeah, and speaking of She Said, that's coming out in November, right?
No, it came out in November, last November.
Yes, that's what I apologize. That's what I meant.
That's
yeah.
Okay. It's been COVID and it's been strange, and
yes,
people haven't been going to theaters and all that. But it is somewhere on one of the platforms, streaming platforms. I'm not sure.
I wanted to ask, what was your experience like going through the creation of that movie? I'm sure it brought up a lot for you. Was it cathartic in a way? What was your experience?
Well, it was, but one of the things I'll say about it that was really cool about having it being on that set was it was such a safe set. You know, there was not a moment of where I felt like, you know, and I don't mean to say that all movies I've been in have made me feel that way, or television shows, but there is a new consciousness that's being brought to film. And I know Caitlin can talk about it because she's in the SAG, you know, she's right there in the rooms, like making the changes, but we have intimacy coordinators now. There's just a new way of dealing with people that considers you and considers you being safe emotionally. And I feel like in order to really go anywhere emotionally as an actor, first you have to feel safe. So I think that movies like She Said, and, you know, there's a real reverence for the other humans in the movie and telling this really difficult story, especially about Hollywood, where still people don't want to really look at it. I mean, there's still people in Hollywood that are turning their backs, thinking, because they're complicit, I'm sure, in some ways. Some people, not everyone, but it's not an easy story still to tell. And but people are being brave and they're doing it. So it was exciting to be in that environment, in that kind of culture creatively.
Yeah, I'm sure having a safe environment to work with other individuals who are trying to tell the same story was a powerful experience. And thank you, Zubin. My colleague popped in the chat. You can watch She Said at home with a Peacock subscription. And also it's available to buy through Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and Vudu. Thank you, Zubin. So I know personally I will be watching that. Caitlin, I want to come to you. Through your work with SAG-AFTRA and also on the committee for sexual harassment, have you encountered any particularly effective strategies for promoting healing and growth with survivors?
Well, you know, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, I mean, you know, I'm in the thick of it, and change takes work. We've really, the first thing that we've did, and the best thing, I think, to come out of this, and maybe more will be, is just to create so much awareness and help to turn to for our members. So before this kind of blow up in the entertainment industry about this, and we all started speaking out, you were just like everyone probably in every business, just kind of like, you know, navigating this minefield. And now you can you know, we created something called Safe Place. You can report assaults. I mean, really, it was so hard to figure out who and where and what, and to feel safe. And you can find resources. And it's just kind of brought out in the open, people telling their stories and pictures, and all of a sudden it's acknowledged as something that potentially happens to our members, and we're there to navigate them through if it happens, or protecting themselves. So bringing that knowledge to the workplace was incredibly helpful, and also advocating for legislative change in California and federally, because things like non-disclosure agreements and forced arbitration, sexual harassment training in the workplace, you know, less, you know, kind of abolishing or changing statute of limitations, all of these things then help and protect people, and being able, and like, so having a voice with the Screen Actors Guild being on the board, and as someone who spoke out, that really helped. So again, you know, bringing awareness and resources, so that it's not difficult for people to find them, and you know, feel that they have somewhere to go, and feel safe. And of course, you know, our committee is named, and it wasn't at first because these things evolve, but our committee is named the Sexual Harassment Prevention Committee, you know, because, you know, awareness around for everyone, the people you work with, you, the people above you, awareness around what harassment and assault looks like and when it's not okay. And that people have tools to help themselves is, you know, is just key. So, and then, but what I feel like we're kind of moving into now, which is exciting and relates to this film, is education on trauma and resilience for survivors. Like we just approved an in-person 100-person, you know, in-person workshop at SAG for members on trauma and resilience. And we just started working with the Education Community Fund, which SAG-AFTRA works with, that offers social services, to do a 2-part virtual event for people. And the first part is recognizing sexual harassment. What do you do? And the second part is, you know, healing and what are your resources and stuff like that. So just work on bringing awareness and shining a light and offering people support.
That's amazing. And I love that you've become involved in also the legislative and the policy side of things to protect individuals. I think that's so important. Yes, we need awareness and we need storytelling, but we also need action at a high level to protect individuals and prevent this from even happening in the first place. So thank you, Caitlin. I can't believe we're almost 5 minutes to the close of this event. I've really been enjoying this conversation. Kathy, I wanted to open it up to you. What is your advice for people who want to tell their story through a creative medium?
Oh, golly. I think figure out what that story is, figure out how it's been, you know, do some research, find out how you can tell your story in a unique way. And it may be through a variety of different ways. So you don't have to make a documentary or a short documentary, but you are going to tell a poem or a song, or but I think it's hone it. If you're going to share it widely, hone it, make it authentic, make it as real. And I just was so moved by the authenticity and the vulnerability of the storytelling that went on today. And I think that's the proof of the directions you should head. We're delighted at Creative Visions to help you as you want to shape it or get it out to the world. But I think these are the people you should be talking to about how to do it, because they've done it so exquisitely today.
Thank you, Kathy. And with that, Virginia, I'd like to turn it back to you to have the last word before I share information on what can be shared. I mean, what can we do to support the project, and then also ways to donate.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, since it's Awareness Month, anyone that's on this call that is a survivor, we're with you, and we feel what you're going through. And I hope this film today just spoke to you in some way and gave you just some little glimmer of hope. That's really why I made it and why we're working to make this feature. And yeah, I think the power of story is so wonderful. I think it is so cathartic, and it has been so amazing making this movie and, you know, interacting with people. And I do hope we see real change through this film. The feature is really going to focus, like it's hinted on in the short, but it really focuses on the college issue. And so we really get into that a lot more in the feature. I know, like Katherine said, women at college, that age is such a vulnerable age where a lot of things happen. So that's really a story we're going to be focusing on the feature. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for watching the movie. And I hope to just stay in touch with all of you. We're all on social media, so definitely reach out. And yeah, we'll love to keep you posted as we make this story.
Thank you so much, Virginia. And thank you, Katherine, Caitlin, and Kathy. Also, what a mouthful. But thank you so much for sharing your time, your experiences, and your wisdom with all of us tonight. I know I'm going to go away feeling nourished, and I'm sure everyone watching live and in the recording will feel the same. Thank you so much. I'd also
I just want to say thank you for
Yeah.
everyone coming tonight. I think that's really wonderful.
Thank you, Kate.
So grateful.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you all. All right. Well, I'd also like to thank all of you for attending tonight and participating in this important conversation. Zubin, if you'd like to share slides on screen, I'd like to share some ways that you can support the work of Virginia and the feature film She Survives. Please consider making a donation or investing in the project using the links in the chat, and these will also be shared out via email in a few days, along with a recording of tonight's panel and resources for sexual assault survivors and their advocates. For more information about Reimagine and our mission, please visit our website, letsreimagine.org. I'm particularly excited that we're having this conversation here tonight in light of the fact that we're prototyping behind the scenes an online platform and social journaling tool to help people move through their own journeys, document their experiences, and find ways to create action and growth out of their experiences. So watch this space. If you sign up for our newsletter, you will hear more as that arises. And using the links in the chat, you can also find information on more upcoming events that we have and how to donate. So thank you once again for everyone. Thank you, Reimagine staff behind the scenes as well. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you again.